The baby at the door. It was a quiet morning in Los Angeles. The sun had just started to rise, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and orange. Birds chirped gently outside the windows, and the city was slowly waking up. Keanu Reeves, a man known for his calm nature and kind heart, was sitting on his porch, sipping a warm cup of tea. It was his usual routine before the chaos of the day began. He liked the silence, the stillness. It gave him a moment to breathe, to think, and to appreciate the little things. But that morning, something felt different. He didn't know why, but a strange feeling sat heavy in his chest. He took another sip of tea and glanced at the horizon. Just then, he heard a sound. It was faint, almost like a soft cry. He tilted his head, listening closely. It came again. A tiny, helpless cry, like a kitten or a bird in distress. He stood up slowly and walked to the front door. As he opened it, his eyes widened. There, on his doorstep, was a baby, wrapped in a soft blue blanket. The baby lay inside a woven basket. His little face was red from crying, and a tiny fist was waving in the air. Beside the baby was a folded note, held in place by a baby bottle. Keanu knelt down slowly, heart pounding. He looked around. No one was there. No footsteps, no car driving away, just silence. With trembling hands, he picked up the note. The handwriting was shaky, almost desperate. It said, "Dear Keanu, I don't know who else to turn to. This baby is yours now. Please don't hate me. I'll explain everything soon. Just keep him safe. His name is Elias." Keanu stood frozen. The words on the note felt heavy, impossible. How he had never known about a child. No one had ever told him. His mind raced, searching through memories, trying to understand, but there was no answer. Just questions. And the baby was still crying, reaching up with tiny fingers like he knew he needed comfort. Without thinking twice, Keanu picked up the basket and carried it inside. He placed it gently on the couch and took a deep breath. The baby looked up at him, his cries softening. Keanu reached out and touched the boy's cheek. It was warm and smooth, and his tiny eyes locked onto Keanu's with a strange, deep calm. It was like time paused for a moment. He whispered, "Hey there, Elias." He didn't know what he was doing. He wasn't a father. He had no diapers, no bottles, no crib. But something inside him clicked. He didn't panic. Instead, he walked to his kitchen, warmed some milk, and fed the baby. He found an old scarf and wrapped it around the little one to keep him warm. Then, he held him close, and for the first time in a long time, Keanu felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt needed. As the morning turned to afternoon, he called his assistant and canceled all his meetings. He told no one the full truth. Not yet. He just said something had come up, something personal. He then went out quietly and bought baby supplies, diapers, formula, bottles, clothes, and a small crib. The store clerk looked at him with wide eyes, unsure if it was really him. But Keanu smiled gently and said, "It's for someone very important." When he got home, he cleaned the guest room and turned it into a nursery. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Elias had fallen asleep by then, his little chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. Keanu watched him for a long time, sitting quietly in the rocking chair. His mind still had no answers. Who was the mother? Why had she left Elias? What did she mean by "he's yours now"? Was this really his son? Or was it some terrible mistake? But even without the answers, Keanu couldn't ignore the pull in his heart. Something inside told him this baby had come into his life for a reason. And until he found out the truth, he was going to protect him with everything he had. That night, Keanu didn't sleep much. Every little sound made him sit up and check the crib. Every small whimper had him standing beside Elias, gently patting his back. But he didn't complain. He didn't regret it. When the baby opened his eyes in the middle of the night and looked up at him, Keanu whispered, "I don't know why you're here, little one, but I promise you're safe now, outside." The city continued its endless noise, its restless energy. But inside that small house, a quiet bond had begun to grow, one built on mystery, fear, love, and hope. And it was only the beginning. Whispers from the past the next morning came quietly. Soft light slipped through the curtains as the city outside began to stir. Inside, Keanu sat on the edge of the bed, eyes tired, heart full. Elias was sleeping peacefully in the crib he had built the night before. Keanu had hardly slept, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't mind the exhaustion. Something about the way Elias gripped his finger made him feel like none of that mattered. But the questions hadn't left. They grew louder with each passing hour. Who left the baby? Was the note real? Was Elias truly his son? Or had someone made a terrible mistake? The thought weighed heavy on him. He knew he couldn't just keep quiet forever. He picked up the note again, reading it over and over. The handwriting, the words, there was pain in them and fear. "I'll explain everything soon." That part echoed in his mind. Maybe whoever left him would come back. Maybe she was watching. He looked out the window. Every person walking by suddenly seemed like a clue. Every passing car, a possible answer. But there was no knock on the door, no call, no second note. Keanu decided he couldn't wait forever. Later that day, after feeding and changing Elias, he drove to the hospital. Not the one crowded with paparazzi or red carpet fans. He went to a small, quiet clinic on the edge of the city. There he met with a trusted friend, Dr. Lena Hayes. She was a kind woman, older, with a soft voice and eyes that had seen too much of life. She had helped him once years ago when he had quietly funded a children's wing at a rural hospital. "Keanu," she said, surprised but smiling. "You don't visit often. I need your help, Lena, and I need you to promise me this stays between us." Her smile faded into concern. "Of course, what's going on?" He handed her the note. Then, he gently lifted the blanket and showed her Elias. Her eyes widened. "Is he? I don't know," Keanu whispered. "I don't even know where to start." "Doctor," Lena did not ask more than needed. She nodded and said softly, "I'll help you. Let's get a DNA test." Quietly, "I'll send it to the lab under a different name, but you should be ready, no matter what the result is." Keanu nodded. "I just want to know the truth." That evening, back at home, Keanu found himself pacing. He had faced dangerous stunts, painful memories, and heartbreaking losses in his life. But this was different. This was something fragile, something small and innocent, depending on him without understanding anything. As he sat down beside Elias, a memory surfaced, something distant, buried. He remembered a woman. Years ago, during a film shoot overseas. Her name was Nadia. She wasn't a model or actress. She was part of the production team. Quiet, smart, kind. They had talked late into the night, shared stories, shared pain. He had been struggling with grief then, still recovering from the losses that shaped his soul. She had comforted him in a way no one else could. They had spent just a few nights together, and then she was gone. The project moved forward. The crew scattered. He hadn't seen her since. He had always wondered why she left without a word. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be her? He pulled out an old laptop and searched his emails. Deep in the archive, he found her name. No number, no address, just a message from years ago. "Thank you for the peace. You reminded me that kindness still exists." That was all. Keanu stared at the screen. Could she really be the one who left the baby? If yes, why like this? Why not tell him? What happened to her? He stared at Elias. The baby yawned in his sleep, a tiny hand reaching up as if searching for something. Keanu gently touched his palm, and the baby's fingers curled around his. Suddenly, a knock came at the door. Keanu stood up slowly, heart racing. He wasn't expecting anyone. He walked to the door and opened it carefully. No one was there. But on the doorstep was a small envelope. He looked around. Again, nothing, no movement, no sound. He bent down and picked up the envelope. Inside was a photo. It showed a woman holding a baby Elias. Her eyes were tired, but she was smiling gently. Behind her was a small cabin in the woods. And behind the photo, another note. "You're not imagining things, Keanu. It's real. He is yours, and I'm sorry for how I left. I never stopped caring. Please keep him safe. I will find a way to explain everything soon. Just not yet. Trust me." And Keanu read the note over and over again. The letter N. It had to be Nadia. It had to be. But what was she running from? What happened that made her leave a baby at his door instead of staying? And how did she disappear without a trace? Keanu knew one thing: someone didn't want her found. Someone was making sure she stayed silent. And now, he wasn't just caring for a baby. He was stepping into something deeper, something darker. As night fell, Keanu stood by the window, holding Elias in his arms. The city lights sparkled in the distance. His heart felt both heavier and fuller at once. "Don't worry," he whispered. "We'll find her, and we'll find the truth." But he didn't know that the truth would be far more dangerous than he ever imagined. Shadows in the silence. Next morning, Keanu stood at the kitchen sink, staring blankly at the note. The handwriting was burned into his memory now, short, emotional, full of pain. It said she would explain everything, but not yet. And that meant she was still hiding, still afraid. But afraid of what? He looked over at Elias, sleeping peacefully in his crib, so small, so unaware. The baby had no idea how deeply his arrival had changed Keanu's life in just 2 days. No movie script had ever moved him like this. No role had ever felt this real. As the baby stirred, Keanu walked over and gently picked him up. Elias made a soft cooing sound and nestled into his chest. That warmth, that innocent trust, it gave Keanu strength, but it also made the questions louder. After feeding Elias and putting him down for a nap, Keanu sat down with a notebook. He started writing everything he remembered about Nadia: her last name, where they had met, the city she mentioned. He made a list, anything that could help him track her down. He didn't want to involve the police yet, not without understanding the full picture. His phone buzzed. It was Dr. Lena. Double quotes, "Keanu, are you alone?" "Yes." There was a pause. The DNA test came back. Keanu's breath caught. "It's a match," she said softly. "Elias is your biological son." Keanu closed his eyes. A strange mix of peace and panic washed over him. It was true. He was a father. No more doubts. No more maybes. This child was part of him. "Thank you," he whispered. "Please don't tell anyone." "I won't," Lena replied. "But you need to be careful. Someone is watching you." The courier who picked up the sample said a man in a black car was parked outside your home. Same car showed up near the clinic today. Keanu's hand gripped the phone tighter. Someone was watching. Someone knew. And it wasn't just about Elias. That evening, Keanu pulled the curtains closed and locked every door. He moved more carefully now, checking windows, keeping lights low. He wasn't paranoid he was being followed. Whoever left that baby wasn't the only one involved. Someone else didn't want the truth to come out. While Elias slept, Keanu pulled out an old hard drive from a drawer in his study. It was full of old production files, emails, behind-the-scenes footage. If Nadia had worked on the set, maybe her information was buried in one of those folders. Hours passed as he dug through files, scrolling through spreadsheets and contact lists. Finally, he found her name: Nadia Torres. Her title was Assistant Production Manager. Her phone number was disconnected, but the address listed, it led to a remote village in Mexico. He stared at the screen. Was she hiding there now? Just then, his security camera app pinged. Motion detected. He opened the feed. A man in a dark jacket was walking past his gate, slowly. He didn't ring the bell, didn't stop, just walked by and looked directly at the camera. Then he smiled. Keanu's heart raced. He took a screenshot of the face. It was blurry, but the expression was clear. He knew something. Was he watching because of Elias or because of Nadia? Keanu closed his laptop and went into the nursery. He stood by the crib, watching his son sleep, so peaceful, so unaware of the danger creeping around them. He picked him up gently and whispered, "I promise I'll protect you, no matter what." The next day, Keanu drove to visit an old friend named Hugo, a retired private investigator. Hugo had helped him once before when someone tried to blackmail a close friend in the industry. He lived in a small house surrounded by books, cameras, and old files. "This is bigger than I thought, Hugo," Keanu said as he showed him the photo, the note, and the footage from his camera. Hugo leaned back, eyes narrowed. "Someone's trying to keep you quiet. The note was emotional, yes, but the envelope. It had a fingerprint. I can check it against some databases. Keanu nodded, and I found an address. In Mexico. I think she might be there. Hugo leaned in. Keanu, if she's hiding, there's a reason. And if someone's following you, they may not want her found. Are you ready for what you might learn? Keanu looked down at the photo of Elias again. I have to be. Over the next few days, Hugo worked in the background. Keanu stayed home with Elias. Guarding every moment, he kept the baby close, never letting him out of sight. He spoke softly to him, read him stories, played music, and in those quiet moments, something inside him healed. He hadn't realized how empty his life had felt until this little boy filled it with cries, smiles, and wonder. Then one night, Hugo called. I found something. You need to hear this. Keanu drove over immediately. Hugo looked pale, holding a file in his hands. The fingerprint matches someone named Dario Ortega, ex-military, now part of a private group. He's worked for corrupt business leaders, sometimes for the wrong side of governments. And guess who his last known associate was? Keanu didn't speak. A man named Marco Salazar. He used to run an illegal adoption ring overseas. Keanu's stomach dropped. You think Nadia was trying to protect Elias? He asked. Hugo nodded. Or she found out something they didn't want exposed. And leaving Elias with you, it might have been her only chance to save him. Keanu stood there, frozen. It all started to make sense. The secrecy, the fear, the note, the man in the black jacket, and it meant one terrifying truth. Nadia might not be hiding. She might be running for her life. The truth buried deep for tonight's. Keanu couldn't sleep. Every creak in the floor, every rustle outside the window made him sit up and check the baby monitor. He moved like a shadow through the house, checking the locks again and again. The city outside was alive, but inside, everything was held together by quiet worry and growing fear. On the third morning, Hugo called again. I traced a location. It's an old cabin deep in Oaxaca, Mexico. Remote, no roads, no phone service. But someone matching Nadia's description was seen there 2 weeks ago. Keanu stared at the phone, his grip tightening. Is she safe? Hugo was quiet. No one knows, but you won't be alone. I know a guide, someone who knows the forest. Keanu looked over at Elias, sleeping peacefully. Leaving him behind even for a day felt impossible. But staying and doing nothing felt worse. He made a decision. He arranged for Elias to stay with Dr. Lena at her private home clinic. She was the only person he trusted. She had set up a nursery just for him. Her own grandkids used to play there. The security was tight. No one would get past the gates without her knowing. Keanu held Elias close for a long time before leaving. The baby curled his hand around Keanu's thumb again. That small gesture made it even harder to walk out the door. I'll come back for you, he whispered. And I'll bring her with me. I promise. The trip to Oaxaca was long and tense. Keanu kept his head down, traveling under a different name. No one on the flight knew who he was. He wore a worn hat, dark glasses, and carried only one bag. The guide, a quiet man named Tomas, met him at the edge of the jungle. We move at night, Tomas said. Too many eyes during the day. If she's hiding, she'll only come out when she knows it's safe. They trekked for hours, through thick trees, mud, and shadows. The jungle was loud with crickets and birds, but the path they followed was narrow and quiet. Tomas said little, but Keanu could see he was skilled. He knew the terrain well. By sunrise, they reached a clearing. A small wooden cabin stood in the middle. Vines had grown along its sides. Smoke rose from a small chimney. Keanu's heart pounded. This is it, Tomas whispered. Keanu stepped forward slowly. He didn't knock. He just stood near the door and called out softly, Nadia, it's Keanu. I have Elias. He's safe. There was silence. Then, a voice from inside, soft, shaking, prove it. Keanu reached into his coat and pulled out a small cloth, the same blue baby blanket Elias had been wrapped in. He held it out. After a few seconds, the door creaked open, and there she was. Nadia. She looked thinner, pale. Her eyes were tired, but they still had that deep calm he remembered. Her hands trembled as she stepped forward. Eyes locked on his, He's alive, she whispered. He's safe, Keanu said, stepping closer. With a doctor, no one knows where. Nadia's knees gave out and she collapsed. Keanu caught her before she hit the ground. She started to cry. The kind of cry that came from years of pain and silence. Inside the cabin, she told him everything. She had gotten pregnant after they parted ways years ago. She tried to reach him, but found out that someone had intercepted her emails. Someone had been watching her after she uncovered documents from Marco Salazar's group. They were trafficking babies. She had stumbled upon the truth by accident through a translator's files. They had a list of babies taken from mothers, altered birth records, and paid for adoptions to rich clients who never asked questions. She had planned to expose them, but before she could, someone came after her. I had no choice, she said. Through tears, I had to disappear. They were going to take him. They knew I was pregnant. I kept moving, changing my name, hiding. I knew the only safe place left was with you. Keanu sat in silence, the weight of her words pressing down hard. Why not come with him? He asked gently. They were watching me, she whispered. But not you. They didn't expect me to leave him at your door. It was the only chance. Keanu reached for her hand. You're not alone anymore. We're going to fix this. You don't understand, she said, her voice suddenly sharp. They're still looking for me, for him. They'll never stop. He looked her in the eyes. Then we make them stop. They spent the night planning. Tomas helped them find a safe route out. But before they could leave, Nadia handed Keanu a small flash drive. This is what they want to destroy, she said. It has everything. Names, payments, locations. If we get this to the right people, they go down. Keanu stared at the tiny device. It looked so harmless, but it held so much power. We'll get it out, he said, and we'll get you back to your son. The next morning, just before sunrise, they packed quietly. But as they stepped into the forest, Tomas froze. Don't move, he whispered. Keanu looked ahead. A man in a black jacket was standing near the trail, the same man from the security camera. He wasn't alone. 3 others stepped out behind him. Armed. Nadia gripped Keanu's arm. They found us. Keanu looked around. The jungle was dense. They had cover, but only if they moved fast and smart. We run, Tomas said. Now, they turned and dashed into the trees. Bullets cracked through the silence. Keanu grabbed Nadia's hand and pulled her behind him. Tomas led the way, cutting through vines and roots. The jungle was their only shield. They didn't stop for miles. Finally, after what felt like forever, they reached a hidden river where a small boat waited. Tomas had prepared it just in case. They jumped in and paddled silently, their breaths ragged. As the boat drifted into the thick mist, Keanu looked at Nadia. We're almost there, she nodded. Her eyes were full of fear, but also hope. And for the first time in years, she smiled. The storm before the light river carried them through the mist like ghosts fleeing from shadows. Tomas paddled steadily, his eyes sharp, scanning every bend. Keanu kept his hand on Nadia's shoulder. She held the flash drive tightly, as if it were a lifeline. They didn't speak much. Words felt too loud. Danger was still close. After hours of paddling, they reached a remote dock. Tomas led them into an old fisherman's house where they could rest for a few hours. Keanu stood at the window, watching the road beyond the trees. Nothing moved, but the fear hadn't left. Every minute counted. We can't stay long, Tomas said. I have a contact in the city. He'll get us to a safe plane. Nadia sat on the edge of a wooden bench, hands trembling. Keanu knelt in front of her and gently took the flash drive. I'll carry it, he said. You've carried this weight long enough. She nodded slowly, her eyes filled with emotion. I was so afraid. I thought I'd never see him again. You will, Keanu whispered. He's waiting, and he's beautiful, strong, just like you. Her lip trembled. She reached into her bag and pulled out a tiny crocheted sock. This was his, from the hospital. I kept it all this time. Keanu took it and tucked it safely in his jacket pocket. By nightfall, they reached the city with the help of Tomas's contact. A small cargo plane was waiting at a rural strip outside town. The pilot, a quiet woman named Rosa, had no questions. Only a flight path and a promise of silence. Next stop, San Diego, she said. But just as they boarded, Keanu's phone buzzed. It was a message from Dr. Lena. I think someone tried to break into the clinic. We scared them off. Elias is safe. Come soon. Keanu's blood ran cold. They were getting desperate. As the plane took off, he sat beside Nadia, holding her hand tightly. The hum of the engine was the only sound for a while, but inside, his mind was racing. They landed in California just before dawn. A car waited at the edge of the strip, arranged by Hugo. They drove straight to the clinic. Keanu ran inside. The moment the doors opened, Lena was holding Elias, calm but alert. She handed the baby to him without a word. Elias smiled and touched Keanu's face. Tears welled in his eyes. Nadia stepped in behind him. The moment Elias saw her, something shifted. His tiny face lit up. She knelt slowly, her voice shaking. Hey baby, it's mommy. Elias reached for her. It was the moment she had dreamed of in the dark corners of every night. She held him, wept into his soft hair, and Keanu stood by, his hand on her back. But the peace didn't last. That afternoon, Hugo arrived with a grim look. They know you're back. They're not just watching, they're planning something. Keanu handed him the flash drive. We release it. Now. Hugo nodded. He knew a journalist someone trusted, someone who had exposed human rights cases. Before, they uploaded the data and prepared a report. Videos, payment records, names, maps, proof. 2 days later, it went public. It spread like wildfire. News agencies picked it up. Governments responded. Arrest warrants were issued across borders. Marco Salazar's name was exposed. Photos of Dario Ortega leaked. The organization was unraveling. But with truth came danger. One night, while Keanu and Nadia sat in the nursery, the lights flickered. The security system pinged. Movement outside. Keanu single quotes as heart dropped. He rushed to the control panel. 3 men were approaching the house, weapons drawn. He turned to Lena and shouted, "Get Elias." Nadia grabbed the baby. Hugo, already on his way, arrived seconds later with backup. A fight broke out in the front yard. Sirens wailed in the distance as the private guards held the men back. One of the attackers was caught. The others fled. When police arrived, Keanu looked them in the eyes and said, "I know who's behind this, and now the world does too." The officers promised protection. Federal agents would now guard the family, under special orders. Later, that night, as quiet returned, Keanu sat beside Nadia on the nursery floor. Elias slept between them. "Do you think it's over?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the baby. "Not yet, but it's beginning to end, and that's what matters." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I was ready to die to protect him, but now maybe we can finally live." Keanu didn't respond. He just held her close. And in the silence, something powerful bloomed. Not just relief, but a future. Asterisk and new beginning. Weeks passed. The house that once held tension and fear slowly became a place of peace. Laughter began to replace silence. The nursery, once only a quiet room filled with questions, now echoed with joy. Elias was growing fast, smiling more, trying to talk, reaching for everything he saw. Keanu was no longer just the quiet actor with a gentle soul. Now, he was a father. Every bottle fed, every diaper changed, every soft lullaby whispered in the early morning became part of who he was. And Nadia, she was healing. The darkness she had carried for so long had started to lift, replaced by a sense of safety she hadn't felt in years. But the road to that peace had not been easy. Marco Salazar had been arrested in a surprise raid 3 days after the story broke. Authorities found dozens of forged documents, secret accounts, and even footage of illegal transactions. Dario Ortega had tried to flee, but was captured at a border checkpoint, with the flash drive as evidence and Keanu's quiet testimony behind the scenes. The case was sealed. Still, there were threats, whispers, loose ends. Keanu and Nadia were placed under government protection. Elias had his own guard, and Hugo, always quiet, always watching, made sure no one got close without being seen. But they didn't hide forever. Once the biggest names were behind bars, and their network was broken. Keanu asked for something different. I want to speak. He told the reporter who helped break the story. Not as an actor, as a father. The interview aired 2 weeks later. In a quiet studio, with no lights, no makeup, no cameras in his face, just a voice recording. Keanu told the story. He spoke of the morning a baby appeared at his door. He spoke of the note, the fear, the flash drive. He spoke of Nadia, of her strength, her bravery. He spoke of the thousands of children who never got the chance to be saved. There are people, he said, his voice calm and steady, who will do anything for money, even take children from the ones who love them. We can't close our eyes to that. I didn't ask for this journey, but now I carry it. The world listened, not because it was a celebrity speaking, but because it was a father telling the truth. After the interview, charities around the globe reported a spike in donations. Shelters got calls from people asking how they could help. Governments opened fresh investigations into illegal adoption rings. The darkness was finally being dragged into the light. But for Keanu, the real victory was quieter. It came one night when Elias took his first step in the living room. He had been wobbling for days, pulling himself up with the couch. But this time, he let go and walked into Keanu's arms. Keanu caught him, laughed softly, and whispered, "You did it, little one." Nadia stood nearby, eyes full of tears. "So did you," she said. Soon after, they moved to a new home outside the city. It wasn't large or fancy, just peaceful, full of trees, birdsong, and sunshine, the kind of place a child could grow up. Free. They didn't hide anymore. Instead, they started something new. Nadia opened a foundation to help mothers in crisis, women who had no voice, no support. She named it Elias Light. Keanu helped fund it quietly, without drawing attention. He didn't want praise. He just wanted change. On weekends, he'd walk with Elias through the garden, telling him stories, some true, some made up, about bravery, kindness, and how the smallest people can carry the biggest hearts. Sometimes, Elias would point at the sky and say, "That's where Mama ran from the bad men." And Keanu would smile, pull him close, and say, "But she ran toward the light, and now we get to live in it." Years later, when Elias asked how they all came to be a family, Keanu sat him down. He told him everything. About the doorstep, the note, the jungle, the truth. And at the end, he said gently, "You weren't a burden, Elias. You were a gift. You didn't just arrive at my door. You arrived in my heart, and you made me whole." And Elias, older now, looked up and asked, "So, I saved you too?" Keanu nodded, eyes filled with emotion. "Yes," he said, "you saved me too." And in that quiet room, with no audience, no fame, no camera, just the soft sound of the wind outside, something beautiful lingered. Not pain, not fear, but love.